Well, I'm Melissa Francis. Markets are down this afternoon, but well off the lows of the day. Concerns about global weakness remain. China and the European central banks cut rates. Over at home, we had a little bit of good news. Jobless claims fell. Find out how these headlines, along with the upcoming election, affect your investments. And unions using tax-free dues. So much. Small business lending jumped 12% in May from a month earlier. This was the largest increase in 3 years, actually, according to the latest data from PayNet. My next guest runs a payroll processing company and has his finger on the pulse of small businesses. So what does he think? Has the climate for small businesses improved? Joining me now is Basso, Advantage Payroll Services owner and author of The Everyday Entrepreneur. So let's start with sentiment. How is the small business man or woman feeling right now? Any better?
Well, I think compared to last year, we're only modestly better. And I think the passing of the Affordable Care Act, that it's a certainty is going to be happening in 2014, gives small business owners a little solace.
You think there's certainty out there? Because a lot of people are still fighting about that.
Well, it all depends who gets elected. We're not sure Obama's going to be back in office.
So there you go. So it's not certain.
Well, it's certain enough that it's going to be law if it continues and if Romney doesn't become president. The reality is, at least it's some positive issue where an individual can make a positive decision within their business. Previously, they had no idea. Even when 2014 comes around, I think there's going to be a challenge because it is such a vast rule and such a vast law. It affects every piece of our economy. I think it's still challenging.
We were talking about that small business lending number, but that still doesn't seem like a big number to me. And I also look at the $30 billion that the government had made available through the Small Business Lending Fund. Almost none of that went out the door. I think it was just 13%. Why are businesses not borrowing?
Well, it's simply for lack of demand. If you have a product or service for sale, the only reason you're going to need capital is because you have to produce more product or service and more customers. The reality is they're not out there right now. I service over 2,500 small and medium-sized businesses, and I speak to them on a frequent basis. They're telling me that there's not enough demand for their product. And if there's not enough demand, and we've shifted to a savings economy, Scottrade just did a survey, and they said that 50% of Americans are saving more before 2009. And if people aren't going to get out and spend, it's going to be a problem for small business.
They're saving more because they learned their lesson about being overextended and what that means when things turn bad. But you're saying these small businesses, so they need demand. They don't have demand, so they're not borrowing. They're also not hiring, I would imagine.
No, they're not hiring. And if you look at my client base year over year, last year to this year, it's only one employee on average higher than it was the previous year, which is not a really dramatic change. My average customer has about 16 and 17 employees. Now, the SBA says that small businesses are under 500 employees. The reality is most Americans that run small businesses are under 50 employees.
Yeah. So what turns the whole thing around? I mean, you said more demand, but that's so sort of nebulous.
Well, it's this big. It is. It's incredibly nebulous. And I personally don't think that the federal government has much say, or no matter what policy they institute on a day-to-day basis. Most small business owners that are out running their business day-to-day aren't sitting here looking at the oil prices overseas. They're not looking at some of these bigger factors that we talk about. They're just trying to keep their doors open.
Yeah. All right, Rob Basso, we'll check out your book. Thanks so much for coming on. We appreciate it. E-readers opening the door to more writers. Just look at the success of 50 Shades of Grey coming up.